thought that if anyone found out about it, my reputation would be shattered. You know what it's like to be in high school, right? You just want to feel normal and not stand out too much. Well, that's how I felt anyway, until one day when everything changed, and I was definitely not thought of as a normal kid anymore. We have this one class in my school that everyone needs to take when they're 15. It's like a social studies class that helps you figure out what you want to do in life. Every week we have this class on a Monday, and it's such a drag. I don't understand how they can expect us to know what we want to be when we're adults. We're only 15. Anyway, a few weeks ago, our guidance counselor, Miss Percy, who runs the class, told us she had some exciting news. What she said next made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, and I swear I broke out into a cold sweat. My life was over. She told us we needed to bring our dads to school next week and have them prepare a small presentation about what they do for work. The hope was that it would inspire some of our class to follow in their footsteps, and maybe they could even arrange an internship for them. You're probably wondering why I'd freak out at this news. Well, I don't really know how to put it. You see, there was no way my dad was going to be able to make it. Why? Well, because my dad is in prison. Yeah, my dad is a prisoner. I barely even see him anymore, and honestly, it hurts me so much to even admit that. It all started a few years ago. My dad was super successful, and back then, he was everything I wanted to be when I grew up. He worked hard, loved what he did, and his colleagues thought he was the greatest. But one day, everything fell apart. It was just like any other Saturday. Me, Mom, and Dad were out for lunch at the golf club, but suddenly there were cops everywhere and my dad was being dragged away. The next few days passed in a blur, and we found out he was going to prison for embezzling hundreds of thousands of dollars from the company he worked at. We couldn't believe it. Mom was a mess, and I just felt so embarrassed. How could he do this to us? Part of me didn't think it could be true. My dad would never do something like that. But the judge thought otherwise, and now he's in prison and he isn't getting out anytime soon. So you see, it's really awkward because even my best friends don't know. In fact, it gets worse. I might have lied a bit. I told my friends that my dad works as a photojournalist and spends most of the year traveling in remote places capturing wildlife. When Miss Percy told us about our assignment, I told her my dad couldn't make it because he was in Russia photographing Siberian tigers. She seemed so impressed. I could feel my face blushing as I walked away. I was drowning in my lies. Finally, the big day arrived, and I was filled with dread. I couldn't explain why, but I just had this sinking feeling. Maybe because I'd see all my friends and their dads, and it'd just highlight how awful my life was in comparison. It was a long day, and eventually it was time for the last dad to speak. He stood up, and my stomach dropped. I knew him. He had worked with my dad, and he had been in court during the investigation. I felt like I might vomit, so I started running towards the door. But then he noticed me and turned to me. He said, "Hi, Joe. How are you doing, buddy? How's your dad? He must be getting out soon, right? Hang in there, kid." I don't know what came over me then, but suddenly I felt so angry. This man was humiliating me in front of everyone. I wanted to shout out, but instead I walked towards the front of the room, and what happened next really surprised me. I turned to the class and said, "I have something to tell you all. My dad isn't here today not because he's off in Russia taking photos, but because a few years ago my dad made a big mistake. A mistake he'll probably regret for the rest of his life. He's in prison. I lied about this before because I was embarrassed, but I can't keep lying to you all. I'm ashamed about it, but we all make mistakes and he's paying for his. Please don't judge him. He was a good man. He just got a little lost." I was expecting everyone to be shocked and to boo me out of the room, but instead they were all smiling, and then they started clapping. Miss Percy came over to me and said it takes a lot of courage to speak the truth like that, and that my dad would be proud of me. And she was right. He would be. So I might not be a normal kid with a normal dad, but at least I'm being honest now, and that's what's important. Telling lies will never get you anywhere. In fact, more often than not, it'll just land you up in trouble. Even if you feel like your lie is protecting someone, it's still better to just tell the truth. Like if you agree that telling lies is bad, and if you've ever told a lie before,